Hello, in this video I'm going to go over the current state of my folio and just talk about some of the things that are in there and why they're there and why I'm missing certain parts and also why I deleted a whole lot of things. So let's start off down here. Now this was a vehicle that I made because I had a chance to do some work for a potential big client and they were wanting me to model some assets, right? Some military based assets for their game, and it said, I could do it, but I was pretty new to modeling and things like that back in 2016. It's still kind of like rough around the edges. So I decided to do a study at least of one of the props that I was making, and I made this watercolor version of was it called a foxhound truck. I also did it again in Photoshop, like painted it again, so I had a good idea of how this model looked before modeling it, and then I did go ahead and actually begin modeling the vehicle but never actually finished it. So I found more joy in just making this piece, and it's a nice little traditional piece of art for my folio. So if you ever do any traditional stuff, it's always good to show that. Okay, going back, let's see, let's just go back this way. Right, so this here is a piece that I'm still working on. Just waiting on that loading. So this is in ZBrush, and everything's roughed out, kind of base form. Everything's really simply modeled. Some things took longer than others, especially this kind of design here, and all these little parts, like there's loads of individual pieces. And I wanted to light it in a nice way that makes her look kind of like she's in the shadows. This was really just a first pass at everything to make sure I liked what I was doing and where this was going. And there's certain things that I like and don't like about it. I don't like the lighting overall. The skin and the eyes need more work, and the hair definitely needs more work. I actually left it where it was at the hair because I developed Hair Strand Designer for this principal case that I wanted to make low poly game ready hair for the rest of the mesh, which I think I was in the process of reducing the polygons and baking textures and things like that. So that's as far as I got with this. It was based on some concept art that I paid someone to make, and that was a nice fun process. So let's go back now. Okay, just waiting on that loading again. Let me just jump back and forward. Alright, so this here is a collection of artwork that I paid someone to make. So this is more like art direction. I put this on the marketplaces and it sells every now and again. It was a fun process to get basically someone into that mindset of making assets and under a brief and making money from it. It was all paid work and there was a few royalties involved, and then I made up this scene in Unreal Engine. Not exactly a folio worthy piece because the style is very low poly, and I'm not a huge kind of fan of low poly. I don't really kind of make it my business to make low poly stuff, but it does get a lot of likes and it does sell pretty well. So that's the reason that's in my folio, because I can talk about that if I was to show a client this. Okay, this way now. This is let me just check where I'm. Yeah, here. This is the tool I've made called Hair Strand Designer. This basically landed me a job as a technical artist. Once they seen that I could work with algorithms and basically make an interface and a solution, I was hired, for a technical art role. I've also made like a 3D model, made a process for making hair, and experiment with this kind of rainbow effect with this one particularly. So most of my folio is really used as a communication tool to convey the kind of things that I make. This is another pass at the same character you saw before, but more kind of winter attire. Like she's got more of a kind of going out into the wilderness and being more of an adventurer, really well wrapped up and things. So I was want to remake all the mesh models in this style. And see how that looks. So this was just a simple paint over from the previous render that you've seen, and I want to start making this into a finished piece. So yeah, so some things are lingering in my folio a little bit. Okay, this one was a remake of a game scene from 1990, I think. And it's a really cool picture of this kind of ninja, and there's a lightning in the background, and there was like Tibetan mountains. And I was trying to make it all look kind of quite blurry and dramatic in the background, and made a good job of making a sculpted face in ZBrush and the cloth and things. And then basically some of it was, I think some of it was Marvelous Designer to make the cloth, and then some of it was Photoshop. But most of it was ZBrush. In fact, the whole thing might have been ZBrush. I think I may have tried to use Marvelous Designer at one point. You can see, yeah, I've just used ZBrush and Photoshop for this one. Okay, moving over. This was a study that I took part in, a little class, an online forum where we basically study something. So I did a skull study. Now there's a few things that I already know are quite wrong with this. Is like the jaw doesn't feel right, feels a bit awkward here, and all this. But I've done a really good job with the texture and things. These brushes that I've managed to find are really nice. Got loads of texture to them. And I did spend a good couple hours on this. Okay, so proud of that piece. It shows my kind of traditional painting skills as well, even though it's digital. This one was ZBrush mixed with Photoshop again, recompositing things and making this little kind of fur effect. It's one of my latest pieces. I'm proud of it because it looks pretty cool. It's identifiable as one of the Thundercats. I've gave her a bit of a different look and feel, gave her shorter hair and these things that a cheetah has, and gave her kind of like facial fur, like that kind of fuzz that you have on your face already, peach fuzz, but it's really kind of like prominent with her because she's kind of like a cat, right? So there's a few iterations of that, how I kind of processed it from being something quite basic and then added her kind of leotard in there and painted over, but quite happy with the way that turned out. These things are maybe a bit old now. This was about 5 months ago. Okay, so back to this one. This one is a piece I did for a game called Windlands 2. This was one of the big boss guys at the very end, and I was super happy to make this guy. It was an indie game, but it was a new virtual reality market. The game's called Windlands 2. It's still out. This is the kind of guy you'll meet at the end. You're basically about the same size as one of these, and he's really huge, and there's different things fly out, like rockets and things. So yeah, he was quite fun to make, and low poly style, but still lots going on with it. Okay, this one was a study of Jennifer Aniston. There's a whole process video with that. I liked putting this on my folio because I've seen loads of people have these kind of painting processes, and I really wanted to do a famous person study, and it gave me an opportunity to sort of study hair a little bit better as well, and some materials and things. Now, given more time, I could fix a few things with it, but I spent so much time on it. I think it was about 4 or 5 hours at least, maybe 6 hours I spent on that, just getting it to look good, and it really popped out with the blurry backdrop and the colours and things. Okay, and this one is an asset that I created for Unreal Engine. It's a hair shader pack that basically gives you loads of control of making stylized hair, semi-realistic, and adding effects, and just gives you loads of options over and above Unreal Engine's base hair type stuff. So yeah, check that out. And this one is the most recent piece. This was a scene that I created both in Unreal Engine and kind of game art style, like having that really grungy, I don't know, PlayStation 3 type look to it, which I really like that kind of aesthetic. Semi-realistic, quite gamey. I was experimenting, trying to make it as realistic as possible, but it was bit tricky, I must say. There's loads of things that I could have done better, but I took it as a learning process. It took me several hours over several weeks to make this. I also did a pixel art style of that just to prove that I could do pixel art. I used this cool tool called Crocodile, but I found out there's actually a Blender plugin called Sprite Tile, which works really nicely as well, and yeah, I rebuilt this whole scene there. So let's see, back this way. yeah, this is another kind of just another take of that little video of it rotating, and yeah, there you go. So that's a render in Marmoset Toolbag. Wasn't too happy with Toolbag, so I shifted to Unreal Engine, and maybe you'll see that in a second. Another really recent piece is this one. I wanted to make a concept piece for my game called Shogun's Assassin, also known as Konoichi Dragon, and it's that female character you saw before, and she's facing up this against this huge, giant, abnormal human, possessed by demons types, shogun character. Very typical folklore type Japanese Edo period story, and basically constructed this scene, just sketching, filling in values, adding a little bit of texture idea in this dragon head, adding loads of detail where possible, and then eventually I started adding photogrammetry objects in the foreground and some matte painting, some rocks in there, and that led to me wanting to add more detail to everything. So there's more hours to be added to this. It's part of a challenge I've given myself to spend a lot more time in any given piece. I'm 6 hours into this and I want to do so much more, clean up a whole lot of things to make it work better. Some people like that it looks finished, but for me, there's still more to be done. So this was just a little kind of cutscene that I made from that, just the image being zoomed in. You can see some things are a little bit rough around the edges, so I could spend a long time polishing that up. And this posted today is just a little way of advertising my hair strand tool, showing people what I'm working on. Folio worthy or not, your folio could be made of the same stuff. Mine's is very varied. I cover lots of different disciplines because I teach, and also I've got a lot of technical ground through programming and game maker, and I like to make these executable tools which are going to be used again and again in the future, for helpful for artists. Definitely for me, this is where I got to when I was making my female character, the assassin character. I wanted to make hair for her, and I didn't want to sit in Photoshop for too long, so instead I decided to work on this for about a year, amongst other things. Yeah, I'd have been quicker just using Photoshop, but the good thing that came from this is I got a lot of recognition from this. I've been selling it, and it's been selling well. It makes between $30 and $50 a day, just itself, so I'm quite happy with the success of it. Alright, it's kind of gotten a little bit quiet because everybody knows I'm working on version 2 and they're maybe waiting for that. But if you buy this version, you basically get version 2 for free, so it's not like you have to wait, and people will get this cheaper. Maybe version 2 is going to be $20 or $30 because it's taken a long time to make. All the detail is getting reworked, and I'm looking to make a version 3 as well with some ideas already in place. Version 2 is going to be a reworking of version 1, which is going to be a little bit better, I think, but this is already very good. It's got loads of potential to it, and version 3 is going to be even more powerful and hopefully do all the things that I want it to do. And that is basically it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and definitely post a link to your folio, and if you want I can do a video, go over your folio just the same. If you want it to be kept unlisted, I can post you directly, and yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching. Bye.